Everybody talks about the billions and millions, but nobody talks about the time when you launch and only your mom likes your Instagram post. Let's talk about it. Hi, welcome to our very first episode of Diary of a Startup. I'm your host, Aya, and today I'm going to be taking you guys on a little motivational journey on how I started my business. Without further ado, let's get to it. Before we get started, make sure to like, follow, and share. That would really help a girl out. Let's get to it. So my name is Aya. I am founder of Maiden Earth, a clothing line dedicated for sustainability, creativity, fashion, and color. We're bringing color in. Maiden Earth is meant to celebrate the earth and everything that encompasses it. And guys, this is going to be a little bit of a long story, so grab your tea, grab your cup, and let's get to it. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of history about me and basically how I got to this point. When I was young, I was really inspired by fashion. I used to watch this show called Totally Spies, where it's about three girls who work together to save the earth, and they got selected because of their talent. These girls were so fashionable. It was just such an inspiring show to me that it made me the person who I am today. And I grew up with a lot of shows that rotated around morals and values and valuing people and humanity, at the same time just taking care of everything around you. So when I was young, I grew up poor, but I have a lot of sisters or a lot of siblings, and we had limited room, so sometimes I'll sleep on the floor with my sisters. Basically, one day me and my sister were sleeping, and it was around 3 a.m. when we both woke up because we couldn't sleep. The ground was hard as a rock, and I was like, it's so uncomfortable. And at that time, I would say 8-9 years old. We decided, let's make our very first bag. The bag that we created was from foam, and it was round in shape. It goes on your thigh. We sewed it together, and it was hard. The needle kept on breaking, and we kept on changing different needles. You tie it, and we used it to put gadgets. And we had this one circle ball that we put a thread around it. You throw it and it bounces so high. For me, that was my weapon. And I had this rope around it, and I would twist it like this and throw with it. Literally, if you get hit with it, you would get unconscious. That's how hard it is. That was our very first product or thing that we made, and it was the coolest thing for us. Fast forward 2019, me and my sisters, we decided to start a company. We called it Zahi, which means something shiny, something wow in Arabic. We didn't know where to start, so we thought about doing in China, but we don't know anyone in China. We thought about doing in Peru, and we also don't know anybody in Peru or South America. We're like, you know what, let's do it in the US. It'll be safer, and at the same time, because we're super inexperienced, it would be easier to just start there. We searched some companies. The nearest ones that we found that had some good reviews were in California. It was in San Francisco, and we're like, you know what, but we decided to contact them. There was 2 in San Francisco. Okay, we booked an appointment in the morning and in the afternoon, and we stayed there for a day because we drove on Thursday, stayed there till Friday, and then Saturday we're back. The thing about San Francisco is the weather during the morning is always cloudy, rainy, looks a bit grayish, and then toward the afternoon, the clouds dissipate, and obviously because of the fog and the water, that's what the whole thing comes from. We check into the hotel, we get our breakfast, then we drive toward downtown, and I just see all this really cool buildings. Something about San Francisco is it's so beautiful. I like city vibes. I like being in the city. Something about being in hustle culture and just seeing big skyscrapers. I don't know, something about that intrigues me. We go to our very first location in our appointment. We get to a building in downtown. First of all, we try to find the entrance. We can't even find it. Then we get in this sketchy elevator that looked like it's about to break down. And we take it up because somebody said, oh, this company, their floor is at this floor. We get there. Nobody was there. The door was closed. It looked like it's been abandoned for years. There was a few people. You would go for entire round in the building before you run into anyone. Try to call them. Nobody was answering, and we're like, you know what, that's a sign we're not meant to work with these people, so we're just gonna go with our next appointment. We go to our next appointment. It was in the afternoon. We get to this one place. They're building, it was a one floor place. I don't know, it just gave up vibes. We walk in, and the people there seemed a bit racist. Came in, we told them we have an appointment. 10 minutes later, they're like, okay, we'll sit you down. They sit us down. They're like, okay, what do you guys want? We didn't give them any NDA to sign, but we're like, here, this is the design. Their designer started looking through it, and he was shocked. He was surprised. He was like, wow, you guys really did this? And we're like, yeah, like, why are you surprised? And that collection, I'm not going to say a lot about it, but it was dedicated to our home country, Sudan. And right now, there's war. There is famine. Millions of people have been displaced, and it's just sad. We're like, okay, can you create something like this? They're like, yeah, we can do it, but it's gonna cost this amount. You gotta go and source your own fabric. You gotta go do all of this stuff on your own, and then we'll just come and put everything together for you. We're like, what the heck? It's so expensive for no reason. And we're like, you know what, we don't know about San Francisco anyways. It's a little bit far. 15 hours just seems way too far. We're like, you know what, let's just leave it. So then a month passed, and we look into other manufacturers. We find some in LA, and we find this one manufacturer that seemed promising. I started going back and forth with them through email. And you create a sample for us for this one dress. We gave them one dress. It's complex, but not to a point where it's unmakeable. So they're like, yeah, we can make it. The manufacturer, they're like, okay, we'll get it done in 2 weeks. We'll create so we paid them. We paid them $1,500 right there. Started working on it. This one, I believe we sent an NDA, or we signed their NDA. Might have been we signed their NDA. They were like, okay, 2 weeks passed, nothing happened. In touch with them, nobody replied, nobody did anything. And I would call so many times until I get an answer from them. So that's how much I was calling. Like, I would call them so many times. I would email them so many times before I get an answer. And we already paid for it. A month later, we're like, you know what, let's go check them out. Go to their manufacturer. It's in LA. And it was me and my 4 sisters. We drive over to LA. We go to their place. They moved to a new location, they said. And that location was pretty big. It was like a big warehouse. And they had machines and everything. An appointment in the morning, like 9-10 o'clock. Nobody opened the door, and then finally somebody comes and opens the door, and then they let us in, and we wait another like 10 minutes, and then we finally meet the manager who was in charge of our project, and I believe he was the owner too. Comes and says, oh yeah, this design is really complex and we need patterns. I was like, but you said you can make patterns. He's just like, yeah, but if you have pattern, it would be better. We can't make this dress. It's really complex. Pattern, you mean like pattern like this? You know what I mean, like the drawing, the stuff, that kind of art. He was like, no, basically how you cut the fabric. So you have this 2D sketch or design with measurements obviously, and you cut the fabric in that shape, sew it with another shape that looks like that, and basically it comes out to be an entire dress or a shirt or whatever. We're like, no, we don't. They're like, okay, we can work something out. A month later, nothing happened, and we're still communicating with them. They sent a sample at one point, and it was the worst sample you will ever. I was like, ain't no way. I couldn't even fit in it, even though we gave them the correct measurements. It was so bad. And eventually we're like, you know what, we're done with this. Just give us our money. You can't make it. Just say so. Just give us the money. They refused. They ghosted us. So then we went to our lawyer. He sent them a message or a letter, like a scare letter, and they're like, okay, we're gonna send it to you. Till this day, it never did. We never received that money. How was that? It crushed our dreams of starting a clothing line, especially because having so many people involved in it, it wasn't the greatest idea. We just let it be. Fast forward 2022, my cat dies. He died really unexpectedly, and it made me realize, like, what the heck am I doing with my life? I should be doing more with it. During that time, I was doing flight training to become a commercial pilot. I finished my private pilot, and I was working on my instrument rating. Basically, it's a certificate that you get that allows you to fly at certain altitudes, also to use your flight instruments only when you're flying without like having to worry, and get into bad weather. That was my biggest thing, because I wanted to be able to get into the clouds and fly. Like, flight training, I liked it, I enjoyed it. It was something that I really wanted to do in my life. I thought, or at least I thought, I wanted to be a professional pilot, until I realized how much of a big responsibility it is. And I was like, I'm not doing that. I have a private pilot, and I'll just finish my instrument and I'll be set. I could fly whoever I want, and we can have fun as much as we want. I just won't get paid for it. I realized how fast life can go and how fast things could change. And if I'm staying in my same spot, not doing much with it, then I will forever be like that. And I needed to take action. And that is one of the things that you guys need to do. If you have an idea and if you're thinking about something, take action, make it happen. Don't wait. Waiting is not going to help you anywhere, because with the previous company that we started, me and my sisters, we waited a lot and it didn't get us anywhere. And I was like, I am done with that waiting game. I'm taking things in my own hands, and I will do what I want, and I'm going to create a company that rivals Amazon. That's what I wanted. I wanted to create a company so large it creates billions and billions of dollars. I wanted to use it to create my other dreams, which I'm not going to say it. But anyways, I got a lot of dreams that I want to get to, and whatever I was doing was not helping me get there. So I was like, I'm going to start a clothing line. I'm going to start selling products. 2022, I was in Sudan. It was December during the World Cup. That was one of the reasons why I went there. I was supposed to go to Sudan and then go to Qatar to watch the World Cup, and I just went to Sudan. But I didn't have money. My parents sponsored the trip for me. But me personally, I didn't have money. They weren't willing to invest in me, so I had to create my own income. The very first product that I was gonna do were scarves, which is those ones. That's literally one of my very first product, guys. But I had a lot of colors from them. I sold a lot of colors because I became a hijab, and I was like, what? Let me do something about that. And I needed hijabs, and I was like, what? That's a good business right there. To buy the scarves, the inventory was around 1,500, including packaging and other stuff. I didn't have 1,500. I was at zero, and I really needed money. So I was doing a lot of prayer, the night prayers. I would get up in the middle of the night, pray to God to help me out with this situation. And guess what, guys? One day I pray, and then I slept. When I woke up, my credit card limit was raised to 5,000, and I used that money. I used it to buy my very first inventory of my scarf. From there, I was able to sell the scarves in the community. I realized I can make money from this, and now I'm a little bit bored with the scarf. Let me add something to it. So I took to my Instagram. I was like, guys, should I create loungewear or activewear? People had different opinions, but I decided to go with activewear. I don't know where to start, but we're gonna make it happen. And that's second advice number 2. If you have something in your mind, don't think about the house. Just think about it's gonna happen. I'm gonna make it happen. I don't know how, but by God's will, it will. You see what I mean? When my cat died, I decided to start a company. I didn't know what to name it, but I needed a name that was super catchy and something that would last and people would remember. So one day I was driving down the street during sunset. I remember it clearly, and I look over the bridge and I see the sun, and I'm thinking, everything is made in China, but where is China? Wait, China is in Earth. And I'm okay, I think I'm onto something. Made in Earth, because everything is made on Earth. I go to my sisters and I tell them, hey guys, I'm gonna start a company and I'm gonna name it Made in Earth. And then my sister goes and says, that sounds like a maiden. Like maiden as in your maiden name. I was like, maiden? Wait a minute, you're onto something. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I like maiden better, because when I think of the earth, I think of this beautiful lady, and we call her Mother Earth, and so she's a maiden. And that's where Maiden Earth came in. I registered the company that same day, and it was on my mom's birthday, because I remember it was on the 17th of November. I was so scared. I was scared because I was taking it serious, and in my life, I don't take things seriously. You see what I mean? I'm always really laid back, really chilled. But was a decision that I really made 100% on my own, and now I'm gonna take action to it, and I'm gonna put in money in it. And then I had my sister help me with the logo. I was like, I want something with the earth and a tag. I'm thinking of the earth, and it's being pulled by a tag. Just like, okay, and I'll insert the original drawing right there. Then I was like, you know what, her drawing is cute and all, but I need a professional because we're making this as big as Amazon, and we're not gonna take it lightly, guys. If I'm gonna go big, I gotta go big. I paid $500 for a graphic designing company to create the logo. And that's my point number 3, is there's a business and a customer for every single thing. You just gotta put in the work and do it. If you want, you can start a car wash company, a graphic design company. You can start so much, but you just gotta do it, because guess what, there is a customer for everything. And that's something that people don't realize. And just because a business is saturated doesn't mean anything, because guess what, white shirts, everybody has white shirts, but guess what, you will still buy white shirts, and it doesn't matter where it's from. Now I have momentum, and I want to go and do my gym collection. My gym collection, I still had the issue with where do I want to manufacture. So I was like, one day I was scrolling down social media, and I was searching designers, and I was like, you know what, let me start there. Let me go and find designers to design my clothes, and then I could think about the manufacturer later. I go and search. I found a bunch of designers. I sent them DMs on Instagram, on TikTok, and the first designer who responded was going to be the one to get the job. That was basically my ideology. And that brings me back to my 4th point. If you are having issues with hiring, go to social media. That's where it's at. You will find really cool, talented people, and they will be willing to do the work. Since then, anytime I want to hire, I've always gone through social media, because as somebody who's in the creative world, it's easy for me to see other people's work and be like, I like his work, I like her work, and hire her. Let me go and DM her or whatever. A designer was in Indonesia, and that was one of the things that I got lucky with. I'm thanking God, because that was part of the house, and she had a design degree, and I had her design it. And then she just like, do you want me to look into companies as well? I was like, yes, please. She just like, do you want China or Indonesia? I was like, you know what, do Indonesia, because it's closer to you. That way you can look into that stuff. You see what I mean? If I'm not there. And she did. She found a company. The first company that she found, they were so terrible. We spent money on that. They made samples so bad. I still have the pictures of it. It was bad. You learn by your money. You can never learn without paying for something. It gives me back to my 5th point. You learn by spending. You cannot learn by holding back. What I mean by that is that if you say, for example, you want to know the nicest place to go to, okay, the nicest restaurants, you can Google it, but you won't really know how it is unless you spend money and actually go to that restaurant and use your own money and pay for it. And then you're like, okay, I like their food, I don't like their food. And yes, people review and stuff like that, but a lot of the time it doesn't really give you insight on making your final decision. I learned a lot from the first manufacturer. They were doing it so bad, and when we finally were like, no, you keep doing it wrong, at their final attempt, it was like the 10th, okay? The 10th, they started doing it good. I started seeing progress. And you know, the 10th, the clothing that they had in the 10th were the ones we used in our runway show. But that 10th time, we're gonna revise it again to like just give it a last revision so it could be done. They go and tell my designer and tell her, we have never ever met people like you before. We're not working with you. Guys, you see, when I create something, I need to make it perfect. I'm not gonna go and throw a product to people when it's half-hearted, halfly done, and call it a day, because I'm not about that life. And if it's something I can wear, if I can wear it and I feel comfortable with it, I know somebody else would feel comfortable with it. When it comes to clothes, if it doesn't look right to me, I won't wear it. If it looks cheap, I won't wear it. It's all quality for me. We found another one, and that other one was the ones that produced our clothes. And that one is a whole nother story, that if you guys want to hear about it. But the time that we went to Indonesia, we spent there 3 months just so we can overwatch production, and in those 3 months it was never done. We waited for an entire year, guys, an entire year, just so the clothes can be done. But I didn't wait there for an entire year. I stayed there for 3 months. I also, when I was staying there, the visas, I learned about visa situation. Okay, that you have to, if you want a long extended visa, you got to do it from the US. If you go and do it in the country, your visa is only valid for 1 month. And that it costs us money to learn that lesson too. Guys, that's the thing that I'm telling you. You will never know unless you actually do it and you spend money. And that visa, they allowed us to extend it one more time for another month. The third month, we had to leave the country and come back. And that's another money spent, guys. Money. Indonesia was really interesting. And if you guys are interested in hearing the whole story about it, let me know, comment, and then I'll make an entire story about it. We created the clothes. We started advertising. I was doing a lot. The campaign, I've been doing it for an entire year. It's coming, it's coming, it's coming. And maybe that's why it kind of like died down a little bit. It's me back to my 6th point. You got to really work on building customer base before you launch. Because if you don't, you're going to end up like me, with only your mom liking your Instagram posts. People always talk about making millions, but they never talk about the moment when you launch and your mom is the only one who likes your post. And that was when I realized that you really gotta work on growing a following, growing an audience, because when you launch, if you don't have it, you're gonna sit there and you're gonna be disappointed. My launch date, we were working so hard toward it. We did a lot of campaigns and then ran ad for an entire week. And we spent $100 on it, and it was basically an awareness ad just to see what the market says about our clothes. While we were running the awareness ad, we did our launch. The very first day, flop. Nobody went to the website. Nobody cared. Nobody even bought anything. Okay. And we were advertising on social media, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, whatever social media you can find. We're advertising there. I was honestly disappointed. I was so disappointed that our hard work, it felt like it was not seen, because we put so much, everybody put a lot of work into it. Everyone, models, people from my team, my family, me. It was just so emotional to see that after all that work that we did, nobody actually purchased anything. And we were doing a lot of campaigning before we even launched. This brings me back to my 7th point. If you're gonna start a business, make sure you're able to sustain it. Make sure you have funds, and if you don't have funds, get a job. That's what I do. I have a job. I'm not gonna say where, but in the week that we were launching, the last day for our ads to run, I was sitting there in front of my clients and I was talking to them. While I was sitting down, I see my phone notification pop, and I was like, what the heck? And then I look down, and with the corner of my eye, I see a purchase. I was like, did I just see what I saw correct? Let me double check. I check on it, and it says somebody purchased something from our website for $198. Guys, $198. That's a lot of money. To me, at least. I was like, oh my God, somebody just did. And then I look up to my clients, and then they look and they're like, what? I was like, guys, I just got my very first order. And everybody was congratulating me. Everybody was so excited, and I felt so happy to share it with them as the very first people. I didn't even get to share it with my parents, my sisters. I shared it with my clients, and they were my support. I was like, yay. And they were so happy. One of them he's writing a book. He goes and tells me, how does that feel? I want to know how it feels when you got that epiphany. How does it feel? I was like, I don't know. I feel excited. I feel happy. I feel content. I feel motivated. I feel all these emotions of positivity coming in at once. At the same time, I'm really shocked because that day was the last day for the ads to run, and it actually worked. That was my very first order. What I learned from my business, I learned so much, and here are some of the mistakes that I think, had I caught on it a little bit earlier, things might have been a little bit different. I feel like if I worked on building more founder related stories so people can relate to me as a person, I guess people don't connect with brands as much as they do with individuals. So that would have been one thing that I would do, work more on creating a personal brand before I launch. Another thing is packaging. When I started with my scarves, that 1,500, I spent a lot of money on packaging. I think it was like $200-300 on packaging. While it's nice and all, I don't know if people really appreciate it, because I know people just throw away their packaging and they don't keep it. That is pretty much it from me. That was my story on how I started my business. Maiden Earth, guys, right there. Maiden Earth, Maiden Earth, Maiden Earth. I'm wearing right now our tennis set in white, our inverted pleated skirt. So easy to put on. You got the zipper, and then it's so cute and soft and buttery and smooth. And this is not an ad. I'm just stating facts. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys in our next episode. In the next episode, I will be bringing a multi-million-dollar businessman. I'm excited to bring him over and have him talk about how he got there, what are the challenges he faced, how to make money, stuff like that. Make sure to follow, make sure to like, and I'll see you guys in our next podcast episode. Thank you so much, and it was so much fun shooting our very first podcast. I'll see you guys in our next page 2. Thank you. Bye.